Today, I'm going to be sharing with you a fatal mistake I see business owners making when it comes to marketing on Pinterest. I'm Emily Vales, I'm a Pinterest marketing expert and coach. For the past 4.5 years, I've helped my clients and my students increase their traffic and turn it into profit through the power of Pinterest marketing. So this is something that, it destroys me when I see people making this mistake. So first of all, let's go ahead and just talk about the nature of Pinterest. Pinterest is a search engine. It takes time to see results. It takes time for the platform to index your content. That's essentially saving it, understanding what it's about, and then showing it to the right audience. So here's where the mistake I see come in with business owners and also the nature of Pinterest. Here's how these two things work together. What I see business owners doing is they will share content that is amazing seasonal content, has so much potential. They will share it at the peak of that trend in searches. And guess what? It's too late. They've already missed that peak. That content, it's not that it won't get any traction, but not nearly the same traction that it would have gotten if they would have shared it earlier. So what I tell business owners, what I tell my students, what I tell Pinterest managers who are working with business owners and marketing their business on Pinterest, you have to push out your content in terms of Pinterest so much earlier than other platforms. You can think of Pinterest along the same lines as Google or YouTube. Search engines just work a lot differently. Now, that's not to say that you can't get traction quickly ever, but for the most part, it's going to take some time. I once had a pin that took off about 6 months after the fact, after I published it, which is also one thing that is really cool about Pinterest because that would be unheard of on social media. So now let's get back to these trends. I am actually going to jump over to my Pinterest business account in just a minute. And what I'm going to show you is the Pinterest Trends tool. Now, this is one of my favorite tools. I have a Pinterest SEO or search engine optimization YouTube episode, and I'm really showing how I'm doing keyword research, what tools and things I do use when I'm compiling those keywords for my business, for my clients, what I teach my students who are managing accounts. And one of my favorite ways to do that keyword research, I love to use the Trends tool. But the Trends tool is actually also really helpful with planning our content for the future as well. Now, the Trends tool only shows you the behavior of past searches and what's already happened in the past. So it's not showing you what happens in the future. That would be Pinterest Trends predictions. So there are a couple of differences here. So the Pinterest Trends tool, this is factual data that Pinterest saw on the platform. I do have a YouTube episode all about Pinterest trend predictions, but hence the name predictions. Those are just things that Pinterest is predicting that will rise in searches in the future. But the Trends tool is actually showing you these have historically trended up, and it will give you specific percentage, and it will also tell you at what points in the year. So it's kind of like a gold mine. And actually, I think a lot of times business owners either don't know about it, they forget about it, or their day-to-day obviously gets busy. They have a lot of other hats that they are wearing as a business owner. And so these are some of the things that kind of get missed or looked over, which it's also, that's another reason why it's really nice to have a Pinterest manager. Because as a Pinterest manager, you are just focusing on marketing on Pinterest for your client and getting them the best results that you can. And I recently published a YouTube episode all about how to break down your Pinterest analytics. And one thing I mentioned within my analytics report that I delivered to my clients, what I put together for myself, is actually looking at that Trends tool and not just saying, okay, this happened this month, but I'm thinking about what we could do better next month, and also using that Trends tool to say, hey, based off of the data, this is what we're seeing, and this is what's going to be increasing in the future. So if we are going to put a number on how early should we be, circulating our pins and our content for these trends, I would say at least 45 to 60 days in advance of the peak in that trend. So let's say, and I'm just making this up, I should know, but sometimes the specific dates get a little fuzzy for me. Let's say that the highest peak in back to school searches is at the end of August, then you should be starting to share at least your back to school content and pins at the beginning of July. Now there's some seasonal content where you could start pushing out even earlier. Just think about how early we start seeing Christmas commercials. If you want to start pushing out your Christmas content, dare I say, in October. But what I want to mention though is if you wait until the 3rd week of December for your Christmas content, it's really too late. Now that's not to say that content was wasted. You could actually save it again or repin it the next time that content is going to start, trending back up. But if you're working hard for it, you don't want to have to wait another year to see, if you can get some traction with it. We want to capitalize on it in that season, right? So that's why it's important to just plan ahead. And so it does take a little extra effort, but when that just becomes part of your routine, it's really become second nature. So for one of my clients, she would literally plan out her blog content based off of what I was telling her with the Pinterest trends. And I know that it was super helpful. And let me just say, now this is somewhat of a vanity metric, but let me just tell you how much she was making on Pinterest was very impressive. And she had over 2 million, monthly views, tens of thousands of outbound clicks. She was crushing it on Pinterest. And she planned her content strategically. So I really believe if you want to see results on Pinterest, you do need to be planning in advance and taking those trends into consideration, because that's going to help you strategically plan that content. So I really don't want you to have this oversight. One last note I want to make about this. I have a student and she's a Pinterest manager, and she had been working with a client who sold baby clothing. And the baby clothing obviously is I shouldn't say obviously, there can be clothing that is somewhat, evergreen, but a lot of kids' clothing, it's fun to have things that are very holiday themed. So Christmas and Valentine's Day and St. Patrick's Day. And of course, you have to think about the part of the country you live in. Depending on the time of year in Indiana, 1 month you'll be wearing a dress and a couple months later, you're gonna be wearing a winter coat. So when you're thinking about clothing for children though, especially with the holiday clothes, if you are pushing out pins for those products 2 weeks before the holiday, it's too late. I know as a mom, I'm not going to buy something for my child that no matter what amount it is, if they're going to be wearing it not even one time, because if it's 2 weeks before that holiday, by the time it ships, it arrives at the house, they're probably gonna miss that holiday. So not only my student was telling me this, was her client, were they not getting her the content in time, but they actually weren't even pushing it out on their website until about 2 to 3 weeks before the holiday. So it was just really behind. So they really needed to bump that up in their business as well, because it really just was not giving parents enough time to discover the products, purchase, get it shipped, get it delivered, especially with children's things, because it's so time sensitive based off of their size, and kids literally are growing by the day. So it's a lot different even than adults. So that's just one example where not only in their business did they need to be doing things in advance, but if they ever wanted those pins to get any traction on Pinterest, they also had to be pinning so much earlier. And the interesting thing is that it wasn't just going to help their Pinterest pins, but it was something that really needed to change in their business in general. Because like I shared, even if I didn't find it from a Pinterest pin, if I would have come across their website and it was brand new stuff and it was 2 weeks from the holiday, at least for me, I'm not going to be paying for expedited shipping. So obviously it totally depends on the purchaser, but one story in particular though, where you can see that could ultimately really impact their sales. So this planning ahead, it's important, not just for bloggers, for physical product sellers, digital, if you have seasonal content. It's just important to always be thinking ahead. So let's go ahead and dive into the Pinterest Trends tool, where I can show you what I'm talking about, how I'm using that to help my clients plan ahead, and I can't wait to share more. So let's go. Okay, so first things first, you are going to log into your Pinterest business account. And then in order to get to the Pinterest Trends tool, you're going to want to click on the left-hand corner. And then under analytics, you're going to see trends. Now you can actually get to the trends underneath the overview of the analytics. And this is something a little bit newer that Pinterest added. I'm not sure when they added it, but you couldn't always see that prompt. It's on the left-hand side. I'll actually just go ahead and show you that. So if you are on your Pinterest analytics, you can see that you can go ahead and click on Pinterest trends and open it that way. But I wanted to go back here and just show you that under analytics, you'll also see trends. So either way, it's going to take you to that same page. I think that people probably were missing it before or would forget about it. And so it's kind of nice that they do have that under that analytics. And the thing is your trends, and if you're capitalizing on trends, it's going to impact your analytics. So that's why it is so important to be planning that content ahead and be thinking about those trends. So when you scroll down, you'll see I am in the United States. You can change the region if you want to. Mine will show the top trends in the United States. You'll see this month. At the top, you'll also, I kind of just breezed over this. You'll see the Pinterest trends. Now, when you use the search bar on the Pinterest trends, it's different than the regular Pinterest search bar. So not everything comes up in search, which is kind of interesting. So if I were to search Pinterest marketing, for example, on the regular Pinterest search bar, lots comes up. But when you type Pinterest marketing here under trends, let's see, I don't see it come up at all. So if I just click on Pinterest, I can see what comes up. Facebook bio ideas, content creation aesthetic, entrepreneur aesthetic, content ideas. So it's a little bit interesting, right? Now you'll see here how it shows this graph, and the first one that you'll see is whatever that first search was. So this first search was Pinterest. So that's what I'm seeing here on this graph. Now I can remove this and it's going to take me back. Now let's go ahead and just scroll down. You'll see discover trends in the United States. If I scroll down even more, it'll show growing trends your audience loves. What I do for my clients, especially when we're thinking about preparing for the upcoming season or what's next, what should they be creating their long form content on now, especially for bloggers, or honestly too, whether you're a digital or a physical product seller and you're creating products, you're going to want to be thinking about this as well. So when you are thinking about that, I like to click on seasonal trends. And then what you can do here is you can actually edit the end date. So I would always tell my clients like a few months in advance so that they had time to start creating it now. So we were typically thinking at least, anywhere from 2 to 3 months ahead, usually at least 3 months ahead. So if you're thinking about, let's see, a few months ahead, remember I said the trends are what Pinterest has seen in the past. So when you pull up the dates, it might be confusing. You're going to have to go backwards because they only have data about last year's behavior. This is not a prediction. So right now we're in February of 2024. So I can only go, backwards from February 2024. I can't look at March of 2024 because we don't have that data yet. So let's say that I wanted to start looking at late winter / early spring. So let's go ahead and give the end date of April. So it's going to show the seasonal trends just for the month of April. So I liked to look at a few different trends, not just the seasonal trends, but we'll look at growing trends, some of those things. So this is really cool because you'll see the keywords, the weekly change, the monthly change, the yearly change. But then I also would filter it by interest. So let's go ahead and say that you are into home decor. So you're gonna see what are the seasonal trends for April in home decor. Because we're in February, honestly, to see those trends for April, it might not give you enough time to create the content, publish the content, then create the pins. So you might actually want to do it even further out. Like if you're in February, you might want to be looking at the seasonal trends for May. I know that sounds crazy, but some of my clients that had the most success, they would be planning that far ahead. So you'll see these were home decor, sunflower baby shower ideas, DIY above ground pool landscaping, painted porch doors, small bathroom makeover, interesting fall baby shower themes, and it will kind of show you that weekly change. So you can see 300% May calendar. Let's try a different interest. So let's say your interest, and my client in particular was in education, so that's kind of where my mind is going. They're thinking of teacher appreciation, May bulletin boards, and they're planning their May bulletin boards. Remember, we're looking at the month of April right now. So teachers as well are always thinking ahead. Kindergarten graduation, end of year student gifts, field day games. So you can think about what content, what free resources, what products are we gonna wanna be directing pins to? So these are seasonal trends. Let's go ahead and look at growing trends. That's gonna show you a larger period of time. It's gonna give you from the end of January until the end of April. So if we wanted to look, because we're already in February, we could change this and actually let's do the end of May so that we see from March to the end of May. We're gonna see some different searches here. Now, like I said, I like to filter by my audience interests so that I can see more of the keywords that are related to what I'm creating content for within my audience and what they're interested in. So you're not just seeing all that time of year. Now you could look at just all keywords if you are more like lifestyle, but if you have niche and you know that their interests are a specific interest, then that's, helpful. So grad cap ideas, cap decoration, graduation, summer bulletin board ideas, preschool. These are very specific. And then it shows you the percentage of monthly change, weekly change, yearly change. So this can be really helpful to look at when you're thinking about that content and planning ahead. And especially too, if you're ever just feeling a little uninspired, I think we've all been there, this can kind of get the creative juices flowing. So let's go ahead. I actually want to, just out of curiosity, because one of the top interests for my audience is finance. So I talk about working from home, making money from home, using Pinterest to make money, using Pinterest to make money online. So you'll see earn money online fast, rich money, money management advice, Dave Ramsey baby steps, financial life hacks, savings plan, online jobs, definitely a big one. That's interesting. So I can see how much that's increasing, money goals, money making ideas, how to budget for beginners. So this is giving me side hustles, a lot of interesting ideas for my own niche. So it's just, then you can even look at top yearly trends. You'll see from June of 2022 to May of 2023, I could try let's look at DIY and crafts. I can see the search volume. So pumpkin carving ideas that has, you can look at to the bar, how filled it is as far as search volume. DIY Christmas gifts, Cricut projects, DIY upcycling. So just so many ideas. And I don't think that there's necessarily like hard and fast rules for this. Obviously, you have to use these keywords, but I think that it starts to help you think ahead. And like I said, sometimes even if you're just feeling uninspired, but one of my clients who's just experienced such amazing results from Pinterest, she would really create a lot of blog content around the topics that we were finding in trends and ones that they knew weren't super trendy where it's like wild and we're never going to see this again. One example specifically in education, obviously 2020 was a really weird year and there's a lot of online learning, a lot of digital teaching, and of course digital resources, and to a certain extent online teaching, if there's a snow day might be a little relevant. Those trends started to go the other way when people started to, be back in person. So there were definitely some keywords there that they wouldn't be using. So those are some things that you're going to have to filter out yourself. But because that was multiple years ago, those shouldn't even be showing up now because we're just looking at, the previous year. So hopefully this makes sense. Let me know if you have any questions. And I really just want to encourage you to always be planning your content ahead so you just have the best chances of seeing amazing growth on Pinterest and capitalizing on these trends, because that's one thing that's really fun about Pinterest is that it's a totally different platform. And I like to say pinners are planners. They're always thinking ahead. So you're really doing yourself, no favors if you're not capitalizing on these trends and really planning them and creating your pins, publishing your pins 45 to 60 days in advance. So if it takes you, a couple of weeks to write a new blog post, create a new product, and get that pushed out, you need to actually have the pins designed and get those pushed out 45 to 60 days in advance. So you can see how, even though it seems outrageous to be planning 3 months ahead, it's really not in terms of being able to get the most bang for your buck in terms of capitalizing on the trends and traffic. So, okay, if you can't tell, I could talk about this all day. I'm going to wrap this up and I'm going to share just a few parting thoughts with you before I end this episode. So remember, always plan your content in advance so you can capitalize on when those keywords, those searches are starting to trend up and get the most bang for your buck with your content. I hope you found this helpful. Be sure to like this episode, subscribe to my channel because that helps me grow and I so appreciate it. And also let me know in the comments what questions you have. And I can't wait to see you soon in next week's episode. Bye for now, friends.